Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Shots Fired podcast. I'm Mark Rutledge.
And I'm Kyle Schoberg. And today, guys, we are here still at the TacOps Conference. We brought in one of the instructors, firearms instructors, Erik Eltz, to the show with us. Erik's going to break down a ton of shooting techniques, training information. The guy knows it all. He's very passionate about what he teaches. We just had lunch together and he blew our minds.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, Erik, thanks for carving out some time, jumping up here in our makeshift studio with us. We're excited to have you on. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and then roll into what you're here teaching at TacOps.
Cool. So my name's Erik Eltz. I'm a cop in the Northeast. Been doing it for about 19 years now. I've been an instructor for a little over 12. And as far as my qualifications, my background is from the FBI. That's where we send all of our instructors. So I have FBI SWAT, FBI Carbine, FBI Firearms, and then got real active with the state, a specific state, and working on some curriculum stuff for them. And here at the TacOps, we did live fire carbine yesterday. We did live fire pistol today. And then tomorrow is our firearms instructor workshop where we're going to do a two-part series. The first part is getting into the data, law enforcement shootings, and the biomechanics and how we can be efficient on the gun and being accurate, obviously, and really setting our guys up for success, right? And then we go with live fire. So live fire will be the second portion tomorrow, and we can really validate and show these guys, hey, these are skills we're working on. Then we start getting into more drills.
Nice. And we want to mention this is Erik's first podcast.
Yeah. Thank you.
And this
he was
is our
petrified.
8th take on this.
I think 10th actually.
It could be.
Well, we're actually going to make a bloopers reel specific for Erik. So
thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Go ahead.
Well, one of the interesting things that we had talked about, what we're going to focus here on, is training at the range and how younger cops going through the academy, how you really start shooting, the stress that's induced in you, how it's not generally a great environment to learn to shoot. And then when you're out on the streets. So can you walk us through your type of training and what you've built so new officers and even existing and older ones can improve?
Yeah, so I would say it didn't start with me, right? So the first topic, what makes our range a little bit different is we're very specific on our range culture and what we allow our kids to do and how we treat them. And my instructor cadre is very clear on like, hey, listen, this is our ethos essentially. And what we found is if you're just harsh and you see no value and you're just pounding these kids into the dirt, they're not, no matter how good how good the instruction is, they're not going to get value out of it. We make it unequivocally clear. We love them. Their standards. We want them to be fierce competitors, and there's a time for them to chillax, essentially, right? When you're on the line, I need you locked in. And there's certain things that we do, like shooter coach. So shooter coach, where we're running a skill set, running a drill. We have the student on the gun, the second student, he's engaged, and he's a range safety officer at the same time, right? So he's watching like, hey, your job on this drill is to be cognizant of where the gun's pointed and where his muzzle is. Those are your two jobs as the coach. And we just do little things like that. So like range culture is so vitally important to me because I've seen it on both sides of the house. I was in a police academy where the range culture wasn't that good. This is the way we've always done it. I had instructors that weren't wearing a gun, weren't wearing a vest, and never demonstrated anything. And I didn't know at the time, I didn't know any different, right? Like who am I? I'm just a recruit and I'm just there along for the ride. I didn't understand like how powerful it is for your legitimacy of your cadre to demonstrate and to care about your kids, right? Like I truly love everyone that I teach, whether it's in service, whether it's recruits, whether it's a SWAT school. Like I genuinely love them and I love what I'm teaching. And I know it's a word that when I go around the state and I ask people like, hey, define your range culture in 3 words. Some range cultures are, like we talked about at lunch, negative. Culture, if it's negative, the change needs to start with one person and one shooter at a time, right? It's not going to happen overnight. But once you get rolling and you start getting like-minded individuals that truly care, then you start affecting real change. And if you're lucky enough to be born into a positive range culture, like it's powerful, right? It's vitally important to their success. So
Kyle and I were in the academy together. in range culture, when we were learning, was to me was absolutely stressful. Absolutely stressful.
Yeah.
Being in the academy was stressful itself. Having the corporals ride your ass for a legit purpose. But when we stepped on the range, it continued. And then trying to learn to shoot a gun, and I had never shot a gun, absolutely stressful. And then you have to shoot. And like, it is not a conducive learning environment.
Yeah. So listen, if they've never had a hand on a gun, right, that's stressful. There's a small explosion going off in front of their face. Mm-hmm. That's stressful. And then you have a dude just straight pounding you into the ground. That's stressful. What kind of learning transfer do they think's going to happen?
Yeah.
Like
none.
it's,
yeah, you're not going to get any.
Exactly. Right. So like, are we really preparing them to succeed? And like, in my course tomorrow, I asked dudes in the culture portion, I'm like, why do you instruct? Is it because you get more money? Is it because you get off the road? You get a better schedule? Or do you truly care about who you're teaching and what you're teaching? And is it, are you of the mindset where you're always training, you're never trained?
Yeah.
Like, it's this unattainable goal that I'm never going to reach. Mm-hmm. Like, I can never be fast enough. I can never be efficient enough. Like, it's like this never ending goal. Like, I'm always training. I'm never trained.
What are some of the techniques and things that you're teaching, or things that you would recommend maybe to a lot of our listeners that are listening to this? Patrol guys, probably a lot of young cops I know listen to this show that are becoming police officers. Is there some fundamental things that you can teach these folks that are watching or listening?
Yeah, I would say my first advice would be to surround yourself with people that are better at this than you. So on the instructor side of the house, like, I'm fortunate enough, the state in which I travel, I work with two dudes, Ben and Jake, and they're just amazing humans, right? They share the same ethos that I do. And Ben is legitimately the best law enforcement shooter I've ever seen. He also shoots competitively, right? So conceptually, in watching how he'll break down how important the grip is, right? Literally breaking it down in so many pieces and how everything fits, right? Just simply how I grip with my strong hand, how I set the pins where I'm driving my hand up. Mm-hmm. How does it collapse down, right? So having pressure on the gun's going to recoil, mm-hmm. right? The gun is going to recoil. I just want to mitigate it.
Yeah.
Right. I would say surround yourself with people that are better than you. If you can't do that, find out vetted people on social media platforms, seek outside training. I just signed a contract with Centrifuge out of Texas, and it's owned and operated by Will Petty. And this isn't a shameless like pitch for the company. I took a course with him, mm-hmm. right? And one of his main courses is vehicle-based tactics, VCQB. And it was funny because we were having an honest conversation with my cadre, and we're like, listen, we're not doing a good enough job of vehicle-based tactics.
Yeah.
And I was having an offline conversation with Jake, and he's like, dude, you ever heard of Centrifuge? I'm like, no. So I go down this deep rabbit hole, read as much as I can about the company, start checking out his YouTube stuff, and like kind of self-teaching, like understanding like how to stack pillars and what the windshield does to projectiles. So I go through this course with him, like, this is awesome, right? Like amazing. Like the dude was funny. He ridiculously intuitive, mm-hmm. and just got me excited to train, right? Yeah. And reinvigorated me. So then fast forward, he wanted to start a firearms instructor course with the company, and me and Jake are working on that project now, and we're going to pilot it in June.
Nice. See, that's freaking awesome. That's cool. Yeah. Hey, you talked about competition shooting and how it relates into law enforcement shooting. And I know there's critics out there that don't agree that those two kind of go hand in hand. Talk about that, because our conversation about that was pretty good, because I agree with you.
Yep.
I totally see the benefits of it. Tell everybody why.
Yeah. So, and that's what makes a good instructor too, like the why, right? Yeah. Don't just tell me like, this is the way. Can you explain and give context and intent to why we're doing it this way?
Yeah.
So listen, do we do everything that competitive shooters do? No. Right. You have law enforcement be like, that's bullshit. We're not, dude, conceptually, there are two things. They are fast and accurate. They are efficient, and they don't fight the mechanics of their body. So if I can make my people fast, accurate, and not fight the biomechanics, like, why wouldn't I give them those concepts and principles? Why wouldn't I do that? Yeah. And it could be just something as simple as like when we do grip stuff, like how I cam the wrist, right? So if my shoulders are rolled and I'm tense and everything, all my muscles are being used in my shoulders, my back, my neck, what do you think is going to happen when we start discharging rounds?
Yeah.
But if my shoulders are down, my elbows are slightly bent, I have a camming to my wrist, I can mitigate recoil that much better. I'm doing more with better efficiency, accomplishing the same task.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, right?
No, it does.
So Erik, one of the things that I'd like to focus on now is, what are some younger officers that are uncomfortable shooting or want to be better shooters, or just don't have a lot of access to range time? What are some of the things that they can do that are listening that can improve their skills, to become more comfortable and confident, so when they do have to go to their range day to qualify, they're more confident? What are some things that you can tell that they can do to improve?
Yeah, so grip is vitally important. And I think what makes a good instructor is like owning, like, hey, there was a time where I was teaching something that wasn't accurate. Like I know better now. I paid a lot more attention to trigger than I did grip. And it wasn't until I started being around dudes that are better at this than me and seeing how they dissect the grip and how the grip needs to be able to control gun north, south, east, and west, right? And how I set that grip and where my hands go. Like today, the live fire range, like we were validating grips, and I draw lines on hands, right? So once they get a good, consistent grip during the course of the block of instruction, I'm like, dude, check your lines. Check your lines. Now, do I have that consistency? Did I get it right once or twice and get lucky with it? Or is it something that consistently I'm doing correctly?
Can you describe what you're talking about, drawing lines?
Yeah. So when I grab gun, right? So we talk about grip crush, right? So I grip gun out of holster. I'm high on backstrap. And when I'm driving gun past center line, my support hand's coming up. I'm essentially setting the pins, right? I'm driving underneath that trigger guard. As I'm crushing gun and collapsing, we find a lot of dudes like the palms, there's always a gap right here. So if I clinch down, so hand meets and I clinch down, that's the crush, right? So what we can do, and one of the biggest things is video each other, right? Like if you want to get better, get a buddy that wants to get better and video each other, right? Go out there and just run a standard build drill, 6 rounds, 7-yard line. See what your time is. If you don't have a shot timer and you're a new person, buy a shot timer. If you don't have a phone stand and you're out there training, buy a phone stand. Self-reflection is vitally important to really gaining the best skill set that you can, right? So like it wasn't until I started training with Jake at this conference years ago. And he goes, hey dude, he goes, who showed you how to draw your gun? I'm like, Academy this, blah, blah, blah. And at the time I was already a SWAT dude, right? Like I had 12 years on the team. And so he's like, check this out. So we did a slow-mo video of how I was drawing my gun. And what was happening was when the SLS would go down on a Safariland holster, my hand was going just a little bit over the back plate of the firearm, right? Then I had to reset, come down, hit the ALS, and come up. This is all like split seconds in time, but like we're always fighting time, right? Like these gunfights are tense, dangerous, rapidly evolving, close in proximity, high intensity, right? So if I understand that split seconds in time can make or break me, why not try to get better with it? So I'd say power video, work on grip, get a dry fire mag. Like again, like I don't want us to be like shameless plugs for equipment, but what I will tell you is there is equipment that we use that we believe in and it enhances skills. And the dry fire mag is one of those pieces of equipment for sure.
Where can they find, what is the equipment that you're talking about? So
the dry fire mag, it essentially goes into the gun and I can work in-flight resets.
Oh,
right?
wow, no way.
Oh yeah, dude. So it's like $90 and you can throw it right in there. It has a spring and I can work in-flight resets. So I'm essentially building a motor program while I'm dry firing.
Okay.
Right.
We could put their website in the
I don't work for the company. Like it's just a piece of equipment that we use that I'm like, yes,
nice.
This works.
Right on.
Well, if you guys are looking for some equipment that is vetted out, we'll put the description in the link.
Yeah. So it's mandatory equipment at our regional academy. So I've been the lead firearms instructor there for 12 years. I was fortunate enough to like be raised in a good, positive range culture there. As an instructor, not at my recruit time, I went to different academies and, I'm just trying to further the culture there, right? So I retire next year, trying to groom who's going to take my role, and they're not going to know any different. So all future instructors are going to know, like, hey, listen, we're just trying to make them better, and we found them, right? So
we talked a little bit about red dot sights, and it's becoming a very, very popular thing in law enforcement. Anybody that's ever listened to this show knows my theory or take on it. We had a quick discussion about it. I think coming from you, you're an expert in this world of firearm training. Like, let's talk a little bit about the red dot sight and these officers that are just going out and buying them, throwing them on their gun. Not a whole lot of range time behind them. Yeah. No classes that are being taken. Just slapping them on, expecting that it's going to work out for them. Like, talk about that.
Not cool, dude. So improv is cool for comedy and jazz. Not cool for law enforcement training, right? Yeah. And I would say shame on a department that's allowing it, frankly, because like standing and shooting two-handed is one thing on a dot. Positional work, low right, low left, supine, squatting, like that's a completely different conversation. And then dudes freak out when they can't find the dot.
Yeah.
So my advice would go through a legit RDS school. Again, I hate to be plugging like certain people and certain companies, but dude, like I haven't taken the course yet. It's on this year's plan with Dan Smith at Centrifuge. He's a cop in the Pacific Northwest, right? And my buddy Jake went to his course and just spoke volumes of it. But there is a learning curve, right? Like, what happens when moisture gets on my RDS, and how do we handle this, right? So it's a great piece of equipment. My take is that you have to go through actual RDS training. You cannot just slap this on and run it. Yeah. You can't. That cannot be a thing. You're setting your people up for failure. You really are.
People are doing that.
Oh yeah, a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah, not cool. Not cool. Right.
That's good advice.
And putting no less than at least 1,000 rounds downrange with your RDS on your gun before even putting it, you know, in play at work.
For sure. Like, it's one thing if you want to go, you want to buy this piece of equipment and you want to throw some rounds with your boys, like, have at it. It's another conversation when you're operational with it and you're on the street.
Yeah.
And I would not advise it at all, right? I think there should be a process to it. I think that, like, dude, you have people that are just slapping this on there. Maybe they're buying the cheapest thing out there. And you say, hey, listen, hey, dude, have you thought about closed versus open emitter? Like, I'm not even a subject matter expert on red dots, right? Like, I don't even run one on my gun, but I know the difference between a closed and open emitter. And I've had these conversations with dudes that I train with. Like, there should be some thought that's put into this and the maintenance on it. Like, there's a maintenance component to this also.
Yeah. And
yeah, it really, when you get into the positional work, bro, guys have a hard time understanding, like, where is my dot?
Are you seeing that because you guys are going out and doing live fire training here at the conference? Are you seeing some guys showing up to your trainings with red dots and then having you're putting them through those tests and then seeing those issues that they're seeing for the first time?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So we see dudes that just drawing the gun, right? Like, so if I asked you right now, like, what gunfight distance, gunfight speed, do you have a standard for first round out of holster? Have you even had that conversation?
No.
Okay, so our academy standard is 1.5 seconds. Like, that's what I want my recruits to strive to. And when I tell instructors, like, in our workshop, it's like, dude, like, if you don't understand, like, hey, listen, this is where we want our people to be, how do we know if we get there?
Yeah.
Right? And that's tangible. I can say, hey, dude, you just did this. You just did this. Good job, right? And then you start looking into the data of, like, hey, listen, this is how it's going to save your life. And you start applying. It empowers them. Yeah. It gives them confidence. You can't truly be confident if you can't, like, fabricate it. You can't wish it. Like, you can't just make it. Like, you have to accomplish it. And that's, like, one of the pillars of my home range is, like, we want these kids confident. We want them to accomplish stuff, and the shot timer don't lie.
Yeah.
And the guns do the talking on the range.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
I think the red dot's interesting because
it is.
You talk about the training factor behind it, but it puts them at risk, and it really puts other people at risk. If you're trying to protect somebody and you can't get your red dot.
Yeah. And then you go to freak out mode. So, I mean, understanding the backup irons also, right? I've had numerous conversations. So one of the, so Progressive Force Concepts out of Vegas, they've been teaching here forever. You want to talk about, like, an awesome training culture. Like literally I could hit up any of their guys, like the guys that come out here, Doug and Trav, and say, hey, listen, I've been playing around with this drill. What do you think about it? Always accessible, right? And like just really decent humans and ridiculously capable behind the gun. They do great red dot stuff. And I picked their brain and like, dude, you can't just slap it on a gun and go on the street. To me, it's borderline reckless.
Yeah. I'm glad we share the same mindset. I've met guys that are like totally argue and disagree with me on that topic. And it's like, well, I'm not going to get into a fucking debate about it. Like it's my own personal opinion just based on my own personal experience and whatever. But
so can we agree that slip, trip, fall in reference to officer involved shooting is a thing, is a real thing?
100%, dude.
Okay. So that guy that's like, nah, dude, I can spend my money. I can slap it on my gun.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and put you in a low right position, right? Slip, trip, fall to the right. Like how can I safely get there and then see how fast you can run that gun?
Yeah.
And where your dot is, right? Because it's one thing standing and driving gun up to eye level. It's a completely different thing when you're low right, low left, and supine.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how you're gonna like essentially like we don't have on my range, we don't have arguments, we have conversations. We're professionals, we're adults, and I respect, you know, my guys' opinions, and I want them to have a differing opinion because maybe I'm not thinking it the same way that they are, right? But that guy right there, it's like, no, dude, red dot, slap it on, go. It'll be great. Yeah. I'm sure you'll do fine. You put them in some kind of different positional work, their eyes will be open for sure.
Well, the internet trolls out there aren't professionals, and they'll fucking hammer you online. You know,
can't wait. I can't. Yeah, I can't wait.
You stupid idiot! What do you know about red dot sight? You know. Yeah. So, anyways, okay. So, hey, can you give the listeners? You talked about social media sites, you know, things like that to follow, be better. Throw some out there that you believe in, that you think they would get some information, good information from. Plug those out there if you can think of any.
For sure. Like, so I would say first and foremost, Progressive Force Concepts, right? I don't know if you guys met Trav or Doug. They're here, they're teaching, they're great instructors. They have amazing credibility. You got Brian Hartman from PFC. One of our range guys, so Bob Loftman, I don't know if you've met Bob, if he's here, if you met him, he was one of our range dudes, right? And he was training with PFC in early 2000s. And he was bringing a lot of the concepts and principles to us, right? So that's how the information would go. It would go, the instructor's out, he's cross-pollinating, he's getting outside his geographical area. He's taking some private courses with, you know, companies outside of the state, right? Gathers that information and then brings it back to in-service, brings it back to recruit, and then collectively is making law enforcement in that area better place, right? Okay. So Progressive Force, they do a training minute.
And then Centrifuge,
of course. Like, listen, there are a lot of haters out there. I will say that they're humble, capable dudes. And the videos that are posted on social media, it's legit stuff, right? Modern Samurai Project. You want to talk about like grip stuff? Like, I've watched his grip videos. Like, it makes sense and it makes you a better shooter. Okay. So yeah, like I would say, listen, if you follow me on Instagram, not that that's a plug either, but if you follow me, all the people that I follow, like, I value their opinion. And it's not just like the good idea fairy has landed on my shoulder and I see this new thing and I'm gonna go out and try it. What we do is hey, like, we saw this, that's new, cool. Then I'll talk to my cadre about it. We'll stress test it a little bit on the range, possibly RBT. And then if it's something that we're like, yes, we like this, then it'll be the way.
Okay. And what's your Instagram? How do people find you?
So it's E_squared424.
Okay. All right. We'll throw that in the description as well, so you guys can check them out on Instagram. You have anything else?
Nope. Thanks for being here, taking the time to come out here, and TacOps has been great.
It has. Yeah. No, this conference is it's amazing. Like, we've been to several other conferences, SWAT conferences, and I'm telling you, you guys, like, TacOps is like the icing on the cake. It's produces a lot of good instructors. The vendor show downstairs, you guys might be able to hear it going on, but it's good shit, man. I mean, we appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. Listen, it's a privilege to be on this platform and to train around guys that truly care, right? And my thing is you learn something here. Like, first of all, shame on you if you're in a course and you don't take notes.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree.
Shame on you if you're taking a live fire course and we run a drill and you don't video it. Right. take the smallest thing that's going to have the biggest change and start to institute that in 2 weeks, right? Like if you saw like a grip issue, like, hey, listen, I like how you communicated that grip. Like one way, like I can talk about grip, set pins, crush all day long. If dudes are having grip issues, I'll put my hand up. I'll literally put my arm up and I say, grip my arm like you're gripping the gun, and they'll grip it, right? Okay, now I'm going to do it to you. So now they get that tactile feel like, hey, grip crush, that's what it should feel like. That's the amount of pressure that I should be having on the gun. All these little tips that I've stolen from other dudes along the way, it's on you to bring it back. It's like some guys, I'm my instructor. Okay, I don't care. Why don't you tell your instructor and be excited about something that you learned, get their take on it, and be part of the change and affect that change.
Yeah. Dude, we're big on that. Like, in fact, when we did our classes at this conference, every class we do, we touch on that. Take a little bit about what you guys learned from this class, take it back to the folks that didn't get to come.
I think with training, everybody that takes a training class, regardless of what it is, should feel obligated to take that back.
Yeah.
And share it
out. It doesn't have to be everything. Take something back that you learned, a tangible thing, and deliver it to your people.
And I think one of the other things that I talk about a lot, and I hold it near and dear to my heart, is if you don't have a mentor, find one. If you're not a mentor, be one, right?
Yep, I'm the same, dude.
And, you know, I think about, I've had a lot of good examples of instructors over the years. I've had shitty examples, and I bounce ideas off my mentors all the time, right? And it's vitally important, I think, to the overall well-being of the law enforcement community to be a mentor.
Yeah, 100% agree. That's why we do this.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why we have good guests on. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap this one up. We're going to go downstairs into the vendor show. We got a booth down there. We're going to go mingle with some folks, check everything out, and we'll catch you guys on the next show. Thanks. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.